is the different tips and tricks that your book says to do with online presentations in general. So what hopefully you've noticed so far with this recording is you should have me looking directly at you through the camera, and you should notice that I have a pretty muted background with decent lighting and sound. Those are the things that you want to make sure that you set up right from the start. And you have to do a little bit of work to get it this way. So lighting in particular, I'm sitting right by a window. It's tricky. And you might think that, you know, light doesn't matter, but it really does. Look at how less professional it is to have that type of a lighting on my face. Even though it would make sense to keep my window open to increase the light, you need to be practicing and making sure that you've gone through the different setting that you're going to be in, and think about the light, the sound, think about how you're going to get yourself so that you're placed correctly in the frame. And the YouTube video that I sent out explains all of this really well. So make sure that you watch that. You want your eyes right about that 1/3 mark in the frame. And that's what's going to make them feel like you are as present as possible. If you get any closer than that, that's going to be awkward. And if you get any farther away, then you'll have to do something to adjust your camera, which can make it seem less professional as well. You want to think about what you have behind you and make sure that there's something that would make sense for the interview. So if it's a professional academic interview, you would want to have books or something like that on display. If it's for some sort of art curation, you would want to have a very, you know, professional and recognizable piece of art, or something that is aesthetically pleasing behind you. So you want to wear muted colors. You want to wear some makeup. Even males, they do suggest, you know, wearing a little bit of makeup. That people who go on the news do that all the time. And then you have to think through gestures, because if you're down here gesturing all the time and your hands are moving, it's going to make you look really weird. And so think about gestures, keep yourself very still and with very direct posture, straight up and forward. And then when you use your gestures, if you know that it's an impactful thing that you're trying to make, consider letting it come up to this area of the screen. So you don't want it to come up too much, right? Because if it starts to cloud what we would assume would be a natural gesture, then it's not a beneficial gesture, right? But like that was an example of me gesturing out to the side where you can't see it. And I have to be careful with these, because if I do these too much, then it makes my body in the image shake, and that looks less professional. So when you use them sparingly, and then bring them up to about right here in the scene, and let them come back down. So those are just some like overall tips with setting up your shot and keeping yourself like very professional. I want to show you a little bit about the posture. You can't tell that I'm sitting with like perfect posture right now, but you could if I sat back like I normally do, like I would normally be in a chair. You could, if you can tell now, I'm leaning forward with my back kind of in like that. And that, I mean, everything that you do with your body, especially in a recording, is going to be speaking about your preparation, your polish, and your ability to be a professional, right, in their field. So you have to present yourself in a very confident and poised manner. And that definitely comes from your posturing. So there's not going to be a lot of movement. I told you I'd talk about the rubric, but your movement is going to be contained to this screen and with gestures that are meaningful, but that don't cloud what the picture is. Your posture is going to be the biggest thing that I'll be looking at for like your stance and your movement. And then your direct eye contact. It's got to be with your camera right at eye level so that you can look right at it and it makes them feel like you're looking directly at them. So if you need to look away from the camera, then you can for a purpose. If you are in an interview, that purpose would be to look down at like your resume and check something, right? And then you would look back at them again. Or if it was in some sort of a face-to-face interview, you might also look over to another person in the room, making the eye contact specific and strategic like we've talked about in class. But here in an online environment, you have to just make really direct eye contact with that camera and make sure that your facial expressions look warm and inviting. You keep your speed and your pacing slower. So you keep everything deliberate, with a relaxed professional feel, so they don't feel like you're rushing. The other thing you need to do is non-verbally, while they're speaking, you need to show that you're present. So you'll be nodding your head, smiling, and yeah, like little things like that, little prompts as you hear what they're saying. So don't make it too exaggerated, just be a human being, but you need to be showing that you're very active in your listening as well as in your speaking. So the whole presentation has this feel of connectivity. And good Skype interviews, they can definitely feel that connection. It does create a lasting impact. So I'm going to show you a couple of other tips that your book brings up in regards to online presentations. All right, this section is from your textbook talking about how to present your speech online. And Lucas will tell you that it's important that you understand the special nature of the online environment. By this, he means that as you are speaking through a camera, it is a unique opportunity for you to demonstrate your ability to be proficient, organized, clear, clean, understandable. And as we know, we forgive people in face-to-face contexts much more than we forgive people in recorded contexts. And because the online environment is computer mediated, it does require that you put more thought into those final moments of polish and really try to get things clearly developed so that it's specifically incorporated. The second thing he says you need to do is to know your technology. You should record yourself. You should watch it afterwards. You should do a couple of different tests with the environment and your lighting and sound with the angle of the camera, all of those things, and make sure that you know your technology will work well. If it's a Skype interview, make sure you know how to do Skype really well. Make sure it's you that's answering the questions and not asking them to help you figure out how to show your online portfolio or whatever it is that you have. So be very, very proficient with that. The next thing you need to do is control the visual environment. So you've got to be careful to make sure that the only thing that's being seen is what you want them to see. For example, I'll show you with my setup here for my recording. I have these different books and boxes that I have to do for different camera angles. I've got my setup behind me with my books, and I'm actually really squished in this weird little corner, but that's what creates the best sound and lighting options for me to do some sort of a recording. So control all of those elements, make sure that the only thing that they're going to see is what you want them to see. Adapt your nonverbal communication. We talked about this with having your eye contact directly on the camera, making sure that you are doing active listening as you're responding and that your posture stays straight and your hand gestures are only utilized when they're going to create an impact and you're willing to have them somewhat on the scene. And then adjust the pacing for the online environment. It's hard to stay connected online, and so if you are speeding through or you are including too much details or confusing details, that's going to be reason that your interviewer can check out, and that's not what you want in an interview situation. You want them to be hanging on every word. So make sure you're clean, specific, organized, clear, and you control those elements of discussion as much as you can. And then the last thing is to rehearse for the online environment. So this speech that you're going to be doing for me will help because you're going to see a recording of what you look like, how you operate in the online world. I suggest that you do this for all of your presentations that happen via Skype. So do a little test run before, make sure that your lighting and your facial expressions, the position of your body, where your eyes are meeting the camera, all of that is working to your advantage.